Hey guys, it's a one and only maths favorite teacher. So on this session, we'll be basically dealing with functions for grade 8, right? So here, they just want us to complete the table as well as making sure that we do what? Making sure that we draw the graphs. So basically, the way you're going to complete the table, you're going to use the very same method that I was just explaining in previous videos, right? So as you can see on our first graph there, we are having a table. And then on top of that table, we're having an equation given by y, it's equals to what? 5 minus 2x. 5 minus 2x. So this basically means to say, you can see that on our table number 1, the input x is -1. So we're going to start at -1. So when you're starting at -1, we'll say for x, it's equals to -1. So when you're saying for x equals to -1, this simply means to say where there is x, we're going to put -1. Then you rewrite the equation being y, it's equals to 5 minus 2x. Then the next step, it's a matter of you substituting in -1 where there is x. So that would be y, it's equals to, then you write 5 minus 2. Then you can see that here we are having our x, then we write -1 in the place of x. And then you continue with the calculation. You can press your calculator. Y is equals to, so that would be 5. And then negative times negative, it's positive. Then 2 times 1 is 2. Then this basically means to say, therefore, the value of y is going to become 7, because we all know that 5 plus 2, that gives us 7. And then you continue, that 7 that you got, you're going to go to the table, then you write 7 there, right? And then you continue, you rewrite the equation again. Continue, rewrite the equation again. So that will be y, it's equals to 5 minus 2x. And then the next step here, we're going to say for x is equals to 1. For x, it's equals to 1. So when you're saying for x equals to 1, this simply means to say where there is x, we're going to put 1. So that will be y, it's equals to, then that's 5, and then minus 2. And then since our x is positive 1, this simply means to say where there is x greater 8, we're going to put positive 1. Just like that. Write it so that it's a bit visible. And then you're going to continue and say y, it's equals to what? That will be 5. So that will be 5 minus 2. So the reason why it's 5 minus 2 is because of, we all know that 2 times 1 is 2. Therefore, the value of y, we are getting, that will be 3. Because 5 minus 2, we are getting 3. So 3, it means to say it's our final answer. So after getting 3, it means to say you go to your table, you continue to write that. That will be 3. And then we are going to continue with this. We're going to say y is equals to, remember you start by writing the equation as it is. So the equation of the straight line graph is given by 5 minus, is it 2? Yes. 5 minus 2. So it's 5 minus 2x. So since this is 5 minus 2x, it means to say you're going to say y is equals to, so that's 5, then minus 2. Now we understand the concept, right? So it means to say for this one, it means to say in a place of x, we are now going to substitute 3. So I didn't write that step that says for x is equals to 3, but I believe for now, you will now remember what we are basically doing. So here it means to say I'm going to say y, it's equals to, then you write 5, and then a negative 2 times 3, that is going to be 6. And then that means to say, therefore, the value of y is going to be equals to what? The value of y is going to be equals to -1, because 5 minus 6, that is -1. So the -1 that you're getting, you're going to write there on the table, you write -1. And then lastly, you continue to write the equation of a straight line being given by y is equals to what? 5 minus 2x. 5 minus 2, and then you write x. And then after that, you know that this will be given as y, it's equals to, then you write 5 as it is, then you say minus 2. And then the next step that you should do grade 8 is the matter of you now putting, substituting by 5 where there is x, because on the table of values, we are left with the option of 5. So it means to say where there is x, you're going to simply put 5. And then after here, it means to say you're going to continue to do what to calculate. So that will be y, and then it's equals to, then that is 5 minus, then we know grade 8 is that 2 times 5, that is 10. So 5 minus 10, you press your calculator. You know grade 8 is that your final answer will be y. It's equals to 5 minus 10, that is going to be negative 5. So it means to say grade 8. Here our answer is negative what? It's negative 5. So after getting negative right there. So the next step that you need to do grade 8, it's a matter of you now plotting the graph. So as you plot your graph, it simply means to say, we know that our input it's negative 1, and then our output it's 7. So our input always represent the value of x, the output 1. That's our input, and then our output 7. So when negative 1 and 7 they meet, I'm gonna make they meet right there. So I'm gonna simply make a dot here. So make sure that your points are visible. And then you go where there is 1, 1 and 3. So where 1 and 3 they meet, I make another point. So where 1 and 3 they meet, I make another point. There you go. And then where 3 and negative 1 they meet, I make another point. Can you see? So they must prove positive 5 and negative 5. So with positive 5 and negative 5 they meet, I make a point. So it will be somewhere right there. So you can see that I'm having, okay, 3 negative. Okay, let's try to plot them again. So the first one we are fine, the second one we are fine, and then the third one, make sure a negative one, you make a point. 3 negative 1, it should be right there. Yes, it should be right here. Then where there is 5 and negative 5, 5 and negative 5, should we made a bit of a mistake? It's because of when your points are not in alignment, you must go back and try to replot the points so that you can get a straight line graph. Then after that, guys, what you need to do, it's a matter of you now plotting your straight line graph. So you're gonna join your points. So as you join your points, it simply means to say the points that you are actually joining, they should produce what you call a straight line graph. So let's try to join that string like that, right? I'm gonna have a straight line graph that is moving like that. So this is coming from as our second coordinate. That will be our depth. So that's how basically you plot this straight line graph. It's a straight line graph. And then if you want, actually, you can label to say this is the equation of what? Of y. It's equals to 5 minus 2x. Y is equals to 5 minus. So that is the equation of this straight line. Then after that, what you need to do, you can continue doing this for the second one. So now let's try to do the calculations for the second one. Okay, let's see first what is the equation given there. So the equation of the second graph is 2 minus x squared. Y is equals to 2 minus x squared. So you can do this again. Y is equals to 2 minus x squared. So we're going to say y, it's equals to 2 minus y is equals to 2 minus x squared. And then since this is y is equals to 2 minus x squared, so we can actually see that here on the diagram, they're telling us that our input is negative 2. So when our input is negative 2, this simply means to say, you're going to rewrite the equation as it is, y, it's equals to, then that will be 2 minus, then our input, remember, is negative 2. So if our input is negative 2, you're going to write negative 2. Then after writing negative 2, you square it because our formula is a squared. Then you can continue to write this. So as you continue to write this, that will be y, it's equals to. So here we're going to have 2, you write 2, and then that's negative, you write negative. And then negative 2 all squared, that is inside the bracket, we are getting 4. So that will be 4. So it simply means to say, your final answer for this one, it will be y is equals to what? Negative 2. So after getting y is equals to negative 2, it simply means to say you go to your diagram, where x is negative 2, our y is going to be negative 2. Then you substitute by negative 2. And then now we'll be having x is equals to negative 1. So after having x is equals to negative 1, this is what they're going to do. You rewrite the equation again. Y is equals to 2 minus x squared. Right? Then after this, grade 8, you're going to say y, it's equals to, then you write 2, then you say minus, then you write x. Really, when you arrive here, since our x is negative 1, so don't forget to put x is equals to negative 1. So you're going to put negative 1, Then that negative one, you're going to square it based on what we know based on the formula, right? And then after that, it simply means to say you continue. That will be y. It's equals to, then you're having 2. So this will be 2 minus, and the negative one will squared inside the bracket, it's 1. Therefore, our y is equals to, the final answer is 1, because we all know that 2 minus 1 is 1. So for you not to struggle, make sure that you use a calculator, right? And then after getting 1, simply means to say the one that we got, we're going to go to the positive one. If it's 1, yes, we write 1. So let's double check. Yeah, it was 1, so you write 1. Then you continue with the calculation. Try to make your work to be much neat. So you're going to say y is equals to, so you rewrite the equation. So you should not get confused based on the calculations, because the first graph I was calculating it using a black marker. The second graph I'm using a purple marker. So this calculation is based on the graph of the second function, because the graph of the is based on the graph of the second function, because the graph of the first function I'm done already drawing it. So you write the equation. That is going to be 2. Then that is going to be minus x. Then you square it. Then from this, that will be y. It's equals to 2. Y is equals to 2. Then that's going to be minus. And then here, we're going to put what? We're going to put 0. So that will be 0. So the final answer for that one, that's going to be 2. Reason being, let me show you. That is y is equals to. So that is 2. And don't forget k squared. But we all know that this is minus 0, because 0 squared is 0. Therefore, the final answer is y is equals to 2. It's going to be 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. Then after getting 2, it simply means to say here you go to your table of values, you write 2. So that will be 2. Then we are left with getting those 2. And then after that, we're having another one. Y is equals to, you rewrite the equation. That is going to be 2 minus x squared. And then that will be y. It's equals to, then you write 2 minus, and then now since we know that our x value is represented by 1, simply means to say, you will say 1, then you square it, right? And then now as you continue to calculate, that will be y. It's equals to 2 minus, and then 1 squared, it's 1. Therefore, the value of y here is given by, we're going to get what? We're going to get 1, because 2 minus 1, that is going to be 1. So it simply means to say, here, our y is what? It's 1. So that is 1. So here we're going to write 1. And then now we are left with determining or solving where x is equals to 2. So do the very same process. So that will be y. It's equals to what? 2 minus x squared. So that will be y. It's equals to 2 minus 2 minus into the value of x now substituting to be 2. Then you square it. So that will be y. It's equals to, then that is going to be 2. And then minus 2 squared, that is 4. Then we know here that our y is going to be equals to negative 2. So since this is negative 2, you go to the diagram, then you're going to write negative 2 right here. And then after getting this, it simply means to say now you plot your graph. So as you plot your graph, this is how your graph will look like as you are now plotting it. So it simply means to say you're going to put the 2 points they meet, simply make a dot, right? Let me try to use this color. Negative 1. So when negative 1 and 1 they meet, you make a point. You make another point right here. And then where 1 and 1 they meet, you make another point. Make another point. So that is 2. Negative 2 they meet, you make another point right here. So it simply means to say, based on what you're having, this will be your coordinates, your graph. So don't use a rule. When plotting a graph, so that will be what your graph. So that the person who's marking can be able to get to see that. So that's how basically you're gonna plot this graph. So this is a type of a graph that you'll draw. So it simply means to say, based on to have these calculations, the answers that you actually got, you fill them in the table. And then after filling them in the table, you make sure that you do what? You make sure that you plot your graph. And plotting your graph, it simply means to say, the type of graph that you'll have plotted, you must draw it using a ruler. But if it's this type of a graph, you don't use a rule, right? And make sure that your work is much neat. So it's a one and only favorite maths teacher once again. Stay tuned for more, guys.